Hi everyone, how are you?
Hey Jamie, how's it? Thank you very much for taking time out of your very busy schedule for this.
Not at all. I'm delighted to be here.
Awesome. Mr. Jamie, over to you then. I think we can start.
All right. Thank you very, very much. Everyone, it's a real pleasure to be here. I'm Jamie Martin, and I'm going to be a coach today. So I'll maybe just sort of tell you a little bit about my background, and everything about me, and then I'm going to get into what we're going to do in the session. So my background is that I'm from the UK, as you can hear, so I have that huge advantage of a British passport and being a native speaker. So I understand that on two of the challenges you guys are probably facing, I'm in a very privileged position, and that's why I really want to help people. I want to help people who don't have my privilege of the passport and of being a native speaker, maybe to help you out for UK jobs. But to reassure you, I've been in your position. I've got visas to work in a few different countries, so I haven't always just worked in the UK. So I do also know what it's like to be working in an overseas country. My professional background is that I worked at both Deloitte and Boston Consulting Group. So I think another way I can empathize is that yes, these days I spend a lot of time on this side of the screen, doing the interviews, etc. But back in time, I was a candidate like you. I had to apply for a job at Deloitte. I had to apply for a job at Boston Consulting Group. You know how tough those places are. And I did a lot of interview preparation. I think this might surprise you, but as a native speaker, I did a ton of interview preparation, and not just the good stuff, research the company, research the role, etc. Literally how to communicate in that setting. I did a lot of work, a lot of research, a lot of practice on my own, a lot of practice with other people. And I'll try and share some of that today. And then once I got there, especially at Boston Consulting Group, I did a lot of interviewing. I interviewed people a lot for jobs, people from all over the world. And I learned a lot about, what does a good candidate look like and what does good communication look like. And also we had these interview debriefs where I would speak with other people and we would, understand what the other guys thought, what the hiring managers thought was an excellent candidate. And it was a really interesting insight for me. And again, hopefully I'll pass some of that on for you today. And then I think a further thing about my background is that I went on to found actually two startups. I'm on my second one now, and we're big in the English communications business. So what we try and do is help people at all different levels of English to communicate better. So we absolutely work with people like you, who I suspect have a very strong level of English, right? In terms of your academic English is really strong. And we help people like you to communicate better in a professional setting and in an interview setting. And we also run English classes for people who are maybe at a lower level of English than you, and need actual help, building their core skills in the language as well. So it's really nice to be here today. And I'm going to basically speak for 20, 25 minutes, something like that from now, just about a few different topics. And then I would love to take your questions, but also I'd love to have some role plays. So I think, Varun, we had people who were going to prepare some answers for me on a few kind of classic interview questions. So I would love to hear those answers. And then I would absolutely love to give you feedback, personalized feedback. So what I would say is please volunteer yourself to give an answer. Why should you volunteer? It's basically two reasons, right? The first reason is selfless, and the second reason is selfish. Okay. The selfless reason is this session will be much better if we can get tangible examples. Okay. So when I'm telling you how to do stuff, if you give me a tangible example to show the class, we all learn better from real examples, not just theory. The second reason, the selfish reason, is I'm going to give you direct feedback on your performance, and I'm going to give you tips on how you personally improve in your next interview. Hopefully they're helpful for everybody, but they're going to be directly relevant for you. Okay, so that is what we're looking to do. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen. Here's some of the topics we're going to go through. So I'm going to talk about some of the biggest mistakes people make in professional business English settings. I'm going to talk about some of the best practices. And then I'm going to talk about some ideas that I have on how to improve your interview performance. And you can see English Quest, that's my company, and obviously International Hustlers, you know, well, we're very proud of our partnership with International Hustlers, which we're working for a few months, and I think, you know, very proud to work with them on this. So what are the biggest mistakes that people make, whether it's interviews or professional settings? And I'd love you to tell me, you can see at the bottom of the slide, which of these have you made? Be honest with yourself, okay? Where have you made these mistakes in a professional setting, in an interview? Where's it gone wrong for you? Because recognizing those mistakes is really, really important in improving. I would say when I was interviewing at BCG, Deloitte, working with people also, I saw 6 mistakes, and some of these I made myself, right? As a native speaker, I was making these. Someone born in the UK, worked and lived in the UK their whole life, I was still making these mistakes. The first one, and for me, probably the biggest one, certainly for a native speaker included, unstructured. You do not get your key points across. I myself used to have this as a candidate, right? I'd go into an interview and I'd be like, right, there's 3 things, you know, that are really strong for me in this job. And then I start discussing the questions with the interviewer. You get into the flow of the interview and you're like, you were just about to say something and they cut you off and they move to the next question. And you walk out the interview and you're like, oh, I just didn't get my strengths across. I didn't get my key points across. And then you get the rejection and you're like, I should have got that job, but I didn't get my key points across, right? Structured answers, I'm going to go big on this today with you, okay, is how you get your key points across. This has to change. This is the number one thing to change for me. Second thing, build rapport with your interview. Okay, build rapport with your interviewer. Too many people think the job of an interview is only to impress. That in a professional setting, you meet someone at a networking event or something, you're only trying to impress. It's not just impressing, okay? It's also about building rapport. We hire people, we, you know, introduce people to our network if we like them, okay? If we like them, if we have that connection with them. This is what you've got to try and establish in an interview in any professional setting. So I'm going to give you some tips today about how you start with the rapport, then you build up to the impress. Next thing, using too many filler words. Too many filler words. This happens a lot for non-native speakers, less of an issue for native speakers, obviously, but you find yourself using those filler words. We'll talk a bit today about how to slow down, structure better, and avoid the filler words. Next one is a big one. Speaking too fast. People who are high status, who are impressive, speak slowly. People who are nervous, who are worried they shouldn't be in the room, speak fast. This is a doubly bad thing if you've got an accent. Think about it yourself. Have some empathy. I'd imagine you've met people from Scotland or from Ireland, right? They sound very different to me, right? Very different to me. Imagine how hard it is for you when they speak really fast. That's what it's like for a British person listening to you. You really need to make a deliberate effort to slow down for 2 reasons. First, you're putting yourself in that basket of like, I am important. What I say counts. I have presence. I have status. So I speak slowly. Second thing, you're helping them understand you. You're giving them a chance if you've got a bit of an accent. Accents are not a problem. Everyone has an accent. I have an accent. Everyone has an accent. Okay? What it's about is slowing down so someone can understand you. The next mistake I see people make is being vague and high level rather than being precise and being exact. Vague and high level is a big problem. Okay, it is the sort of technical jargon filled. This answer could apply to any role, to any person, to any company. When I used to help people with consulting interviews, help them get into places like BCG and Deloitte, I would say this. I would say when they ask you why this firm, why this role, give them an answer that would be wrong at another company. If you're applying to Deloitte, give them an answer that PwC would say, well, what are you talking about? We don't do that. I'll tell you how to do this, okay, in this session, but you want to give an answer that is so precise, so specific, it would be wrong at their rival company. One of those answers that's like, you've got big international clients, you're a great global firm, you care about climate change, you promote women. Every firm says that. These are good things, but every firm says they do this. If you want to talk about the way they promote senior women, go into the specifics. If you admire their work on climate change, get into the specifics. We'll talk more about it today. Finally, people just present themselves as being underconfident. Remember, in a lot of the jobs you're going for, we're thinking, would I put this person in front of a client? Could this person represent my company? You've got to present yourself as a confident person, as somebody who comes across with energy and who wants to be there and who is going to make a positive impression on clients. You can't present yourself as being really underconfident, someone who sort of looks down at their keyboard when they're talking or looks down at the floor when they're talking, doesn't show a lot of personality. You've got to come in there smiling, using your hands, bringing some energy, bringing positivity, and being very confident in what you say. So let's just go through a few best practice tips. In my opinion, it's really, really clear. If you build rapport, you get jobs, okay? People hire people that they like. That's why people hire people. They hire people that they like. You've got to build rapport first. You've got to impress people second. Build rapport first, impress people second. So how do you do it? You flatter people, you share personal details, you are enthusiastic, and you smile, okay? That is how you do it. So let's go into this a little bit. When I go into an interview, the first 2 to even 5 minutes, I'm not trying to impress the person. I'm not trying to persuade them that I'm going to be good at the job. I'm just trying to build a connection with them. So I'm going to look them in the eye, I'm going to smile at them, and I'm going to both ask them about themselves and talk about myself personally. We like people who share things personally. So you've got to research the person you're meeting. Golden rule. You've got to know more about them than they know about you. Now, remember, they have your whole CV and your application. They know a lot about you. So you've got to know more about them. How do you do that? You've got to research them in advance. LinkedIn is your friend. Most people who are interviewing you will have a LinkedIn profile. My number one tip is this. Go down that LinkedIn profile and just pick one thing that you find impressive. Just one thing. One thing you find impressive. And I want you to talk about it. I want it to be one of the first things that you bring up. You have some initial chat maybe, but I want it to be one of the first things that you bring out is how impressed you are by a certain thing in their CV. Flatter people. People don't flatter people enough. Just say very honestly, hey, I saw that, you worked in this country, or you achieved this, or you worked in this role, and I found it incredibly impressive. It's really cool. I really admire that. I'd love to do that. Next thing is to share things about yourself. And if a conversation develops about personal things, keep it going. Okay, keep it going. You can chat to them about where they live, what part of the country or the town they're from. You can chat to them about their journey. If they ask, how was your weekend? Don't just say it was fine. Tell them what you did. Talk about the most interesting thing you did in your weekend. Share it. Share what you're passionate about. Share your hobbies. If you cooked for your friends, tell them, what did you cook? Right? How did you host? Say you love hosting. Ask them, do they cook? Even if they don't, they'll be like, oh no, I'm terrible. It's a nice start, right? You're building rapport with someone. This is what you have to do. If you get a personal question like this, fine. Don't say that. Tell them something about your journey. Tell them something about your family. Tell them something about what you did at the weekend. It's a real natural thing. If they don't ask, you ask them. Lead on building the rapport. Trust me, this will really pay off for you in any professional situation. Second thing, this is a big one in this. This is the core of consulting. I mean, this is what you learn in consulting, the structured thinking that consultants are incredibly famous for. The key to this is the pyramid principle. So how does it work? The way it works is that you start any answer with 3 key points, and then you give the details of each. This way you will never fail to say something that you want to say. So for the big obvious questions, tell me about yourself. What's your biggest achievement? Why this role? Why our firm? You've got to have it planned out. You've got to have it ready. Okay? You've got to answer it in a pyramid principle style. It is unbelievably important that you come at it like this. So you say, you know, I'm excited by this role because of A, B, and C. Under A, here's some more details, some examples, etc. Under B, here's some more details. Under C, here's some more details. It's a nice structured answer. Okay. And especially if you combine it with really good research, being really specific, it's going to be really powerful. And I want you to, all the kind of pre-prepared questions, the questions you know are coming, I want you to use the pyramid principle. Now, this is not easy. It is one of the things that I teach people that they struggle with the most. Okay. And we're going to work today. Hopefully some people have brought some examples, and we're going to work together today on planning out your answers in a pyramid principle style. So you will give me your answer, and I'm going to try and give it back to you in the pyramid principle. Next one, slow down. Okay. Back to what we were saying earlier. People who are high status, people who've got something important to say, they say it slowly. Okay. This is important because it shows that you have status. It shows that you're important. It shows that you are confident. It's doubly important for anyone on this call, which I think is most of you, who is not a native English speaker, who's not British, who has an accent, right? You've got to give people the chance to understand you. They want to understand you. They want to hire you. But if they really believe their clients won't be able to follow you, they're not going to hire you. Speak slowly. Give yourself the best chance. And the way you do this is breathing and deliberate pauses. That's how you're going to do this. Okay? Breathing and deliberate pauses. Again, we're going to do more on this. So, what are my next steps to ace an interview or any professional interaction that you have? We're going to use the pyramid principle to create a structured, tell me about yourself, and any other question that you know is coming or you expect to be coming. Okay? You really need to plan these out. Next thing is, I want you to take a totally new approach to interviews. Okay? I want you to be friendly. I want you to flatter people. I want you to smile. And I want you to show high energy. Okay? I want you to bring this into the interview. And the really important thing here is that research on your interviewer. You have got to know more about your interviewer than they know about you. And they know a lot about you. You've got to have that flattery line right there. There's nothing better an interviewer, someone starts saying, and said, oh yeah, I saw that, you know, you worked in Germany, you know, something like that. It's great. Have the flattery line ready. Have a really good knowledge of the background of the interviewer ready. Final thing, I want you to use pauses and I want you to use breathing in order to speak much more slowly. You are going to be nervous. It's a job interview, right? It's going to be nerve-wracking. I need you to deliberately slow down. That is the absolutely crucial thing. Deliberately slow down. Okay, well, look, good luck. I think that this is kind of everything I wanted to present. So maybe what I'd suggest is if we just take some questions first, and then what I want to do is give you all examples. Okay. So I'm very happy to take any questions and then to get into examples. So I'm hoping that people are ready on these questions I asked you to prepare. I asked you to prepare, tell me about yourself. What's your greatest achievement or success? Why do you want this role? Doesn't matter on the role. Why do you want this role? And why do you want to join our firm? Okay. Those are the things I'm going to be asking you to volunteer. Please volunteer. It is going to make the session great for you. You get direct personal feedback from someone who's a very experienced interviewer and interview coach. Great for everyone else. They get to see a tangible example to learn from. Now, before we get into, we're making pretty good time. So before we get into those questions, I would absolutely love it if anyone has any questions. I'd love just to clarify what I've just taught you. And then we're going to have loads of time, okay, to go through some examples. So I think I've got a hand up already. Stuti, what would you like to ask? Oh, sorry, Stuti, you're muted.
Sorry, I'll have to unmute them. I'll unmute them now. You're unmuted.
Hi,
There you
hi,
go.
Jimmy. Thank you so much. This was of very high value. Um, can you hear me? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
He-
Jamie, can you not hear Stuti? Oh, I can hear Stuti. Can everyone else hear Stuti? Drop a yes in the chat. It might be my Wi-Fi or...
Yeah, we can try again.
Hi, Jamie. Can you hear me now?
That's better. Go for it. Go for it.
Awesome.
Hi. Thank you so much for this. It was of very high value. My doubt is about the third point that you mentioned about speaking slowly and using
Yeah.
deliberate pauses. I want to know what is the sweet point at which you stop and decide, okay, this is the pace that I want to speak in, because it might just, I'm afraid I might sound like I don't know something and that I am thinking for too long if I take like longer pauses. So that's my question.
It's a great question. I would say that most people's barometer is way too fast, right? And then, so firstly, probably if you're like the average person, your sense of how fast to speak is already faster than neutral. The second thing is in an interview or in a networking situation or in a professional meeting, you're going to be nervous. So you will speak faster. You have to employ delivery breaks. You're not going to think about every word you say. No one does that. What you need to think about is, how do I employ deliberate breaks so that at certain parts of an answer or a sentence, I slow down? And it's just extremely normal to breathe and pause during a conversation. So just try and have moments during your presentation where you deliberately slow down. Great. Thank you for the question, Stuti. It's an excellent question. Who else would like to ask a question before we get into the presentations?
Srinivas has a question. Srinivas, I'm going to unmute you if you
Srinivas,
could
go
share
for
your
it.
video as well.
Okay, thank you for Ron and Jeremy for giving this
No
opportunity to us. Yeah, so my question is, I have given a couple of interviews previously. As you told that, the pyramid principle point, which is seems different from the star methodology. So generally, we used to follow the star methodology, which gives a clear explanation about the any point of question that interviewer asks. So what is the difference between the pyramid principle structure and the star methodology structure? How different both are?
Yeah, so totally different.
Yeah.
I would say totally different style of answering. So in terms of like fit storytelling, there's a few different styles that I've heard about. So STAR is one. McKinsey has a framework called situation, complication, resolution. There's another one which I like called SOAR, situation, objective, action, result. Right? These are very specific to when you're telling a like, tell me about yourself, tell me about a time type story. Like, tell me about a time you showed leadership. Tell me about a time you communicated with someone who, you know, didn't want to hear something. Tell me about a time that you were a, you know, really effective team member. These have good place in these answers. Okay. The pyramid principle is much stronger and is different for what I would describe as answers where you like have a lot of like content, more generic answers, like tell me about yourself. It doesn't suit like situation, objective, action, result, right? It's like, it doesn't suit that. Or why do you want this firm? It doesn't suit, you know, situation, complication, resolution, right? Pyramid principle is much more of a general, it can take any information and process it. So the pyramid principle, for example, is what consultants use to make their client presentations. Whereas once you're in the firm, you never hear of STAR again, or situation, complication, resolution. You never hear of it again once you're in the firm. The pyramid principle, you're using it like every day. And I think you'll get a sense today of how we can help people restructure. I totally agree with you. Things like STAR, SOAR, situation, complication, revolution, they can be really helpful when doing personal stories.
Yeah, 100% agreed. Just wanted to jump in there really quickly, and I couldn't agree any more with Jamie. What most people get confused with is they're confusing example questions where people say, can you give me an example where you led a team? That's where you have STAR. But when it's a very specific, why this role, why this company, that's when you use the pyramid principle, and you're just giving them 3 reasons why you want to join the company or you're excited for the role. It's very easy to confuse the two, but you never ever should use a STAR method for like, if they ask you, why do you want to join the firm, right? For that, they want clear reasons with personalized examples, and that's the pyramid principle. So basically, you don't want to confuse the two. So both are right, but use them in different scenarios. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that's true, Farhan. So, so what I understood is for certain questions like which comes under the behavioral and the personality questions, there we can use the principal structure kind of methodology, and the solution kind of questions, there we can use the STAR method. Do you recommend this?
Yeah, basically, when they ask you for a like, tell me a time where you did X. Whenever they ask you for an example, the STAR method is just, it's this. If you look at it, like if you boil it down to first principles, the pyramid principle and the STAR method are just a way to give structure. So what Jamie said at the start, which is unstructured responses, you're solving the same problem, which is structure. So we're all doing the same
But
thing,
you are
it's
giving
different
the
ways to
straight away
skin the cat.
answer.
Basically, you have to structure everything you say. So if I were to speak for 2 minutes, and I would just keep going on and on about like how Jamie is a great interview coach, versus if I were to say, okay, here's 3 reasons why Jamie is a great interview coach, and then I give the first one and the second one and the third one, you're more likely to want to listen for 2, 3, or 4 minutes. So you need to understand human beings, especially with social media and like just our smartphones, our attention spans are going down by the day. So you need to like really keep people engaged, and to get people engaged, there's loads of ways. There's tonality, there's storytelling, but a really simple way that anyone can employ is structure. So just understand like STAR method, pyramid principle, all of that stuff is great, but just understand why we're doing it, because we want to give structure to keep people engaged. That's it. So pyramid principle is one way, STAR method is another way. As Jamie said, there's so many other consulting frameworks that I'm not even aware of. They're just giving you structure. So I hope that answers your questions, Srinivas, and answers other people's questions as well. Jamie, I think I'll have to unmute you because of the settings. Sorry. You should be allowed now. But I don't know if there's anything you want to add.
And I endorse what was just said. I think STAR is a good framework, as a SOAR and situation, complication, resolution. All definitely good things to use for that. Tell me about a time, give me an example of type question. Pyramid principle is much more broadly applicable. And the advice of just structure everything you say, absolutely crucial. You're never going to guess every interview question that you get asked, but some are very predictable. And you can probably predict, there are 10 of which they might ask 3 or 4, right? You've got to structure all 10 before your interview and have very well rehearsed structured answers. One thing which maybe I could have mentioned in the slides is practice is so important, everyone. Like out loud practice is absolutely crucial. If you've got an interview, you should be like doing it for the 10th time, huh? Practice with friends, practice yourself in the mirror, Like if you know anyone who's worked at the firm, practice out loud practice is so crucial. And I can tell you, very senior executives do this before big presentations or job interviews. So you are definitely not beyond it, I'm afraid. I wish we were all beyond practice. I'm not beyond it. You're not beyond it. Like none of us are ever beyond practice. Like out loud practice is so crucial for interviews. So structure your answers on paper. And then I want to see out loud practice. All right. Who else has a question?
Any more questions, or should we jump to rehearsals? So we'll wait for like, let's say 10 seconds. If we see a hand up, we can
Have we
jump
got
into
another
questions.
hand, or are we going to jump into rehearsals now?
Yeah, so I probably know why people are not like, people get really like scared of asking questions. Even in my Q&As, people like asking questions in the chat. So if you have questions, drop them in the chat and I can just be your voice. We can
Okay,
take
yeah.
questions.
We've got one. I think Srinivas asked another, maybe.
Would you
All
recommend any
articles on the
study
pyramid.
articles?
Yes is the answer, Srinivas. Let me dig one out. I'm literally going to go and get it live right now. It's
Yeah.
Barbara Minto, which is the lady who basically invented it.
I've read that. Yeah. I'm just going to read the question aloud for everyone who's not deep in the chat. Srinivas's question is, would you recommend any study articles to understand the pyramid principle? And Jamie's just fetching a link. And Barbara Minto is literally, I've read that when I was applying to work in VC, venture capital. I was reading all of those Barbara Minto kind of articles. Literally, it's the first or second like Google search or blog on if you search on Google.
And she is like the lady. I mean, she invented it. There's actually an article here. Like, I invented it, so I get to say how to use it. I think that, this is something you can look around, but it's really a powerful technique, guys. Really powerful.
Awesome. So if anyone has any more questions, please just drop them in the chat. If not, we're going to jump to rehearsals. I've asked people over email, over the WhatsApp group to prepare answers. I hope you guys have. If not, then I will be the guy that will come up with a pretty bad answer. And I want Jamie to completely, give me really ruthless, raw feedback. And then, because we still have 30 minutes left, and then I'll give a better answer, hopefully, which then Jamie can give positive and constructive feedback on. Cool. So with that said, now, Jamie, are we happy to move on to rehearsals? Sorry, or like
I'm ready.
Role play?
I'm ready.
Awesome.
Let's start rehearsing. Let's start
Awesome.
rehearsing. Get my pen and
Awesome.
paper ready.
Let's do it.
Noting down some feedback for myself so I can remember what to say to you.
I love it. Awesome. So if anyone wants to come on the spotlight and actually tell me about yourself, why this role, why this company. And I think the last one was, what's your greatest strength and weakness? Was that the last one? Or look, it was, what's your greatest achievement / success? Yeah. So if you want to do that, please raise your virtual hand.
We have a quick question. Sorry, Fareen. We have a late question. When should we flatter? Is it when we introduce ourselves? I hope I get your name right tonight. Tonight, definitely early. Okay. So you've just got to kind of obviously be emotionally intelligent about it, but like you sit down and they say hi and say, oh, welcome. And there's often a kind of pause. You would say, I saw that you did X, or you worked in X, or you achieved X. And then just explain why you like it. Right. That is a great thing to say at the start. Everyone loves being flattered. Okay, everyone loves it. And there's actually research that even when people know you're doing it to try and get the job, they still like it, and it still makes them like you more. Okay, so like it really works, and it shows, some real intelligence to like research the person. When someone does it to me, all I'm thinking is, if I hire you, you'll do that to our client and I'll like it. That's all I'm thinking. And it's good. So right at the start, find a kind of natural pause in the early conversation before they've asked any interview questions. Okay.
100%. In fact, one of my first few students who I worked with, Maria, for Mexico, I literally got her to review the COO's LinkedIn, and we found out that the COO joined like 3 months before, and before that they were in banking. And like literally in her questions that she asked, hey, I saw that you were in banking for 7 years. Now you've transitioned from banking to a startup. What prompted your move? And what were your key challenges in your first few months? And they loved that. I mean, they obviously loved the whole interview, but I was really impressed by that. And he kept speaking for like, literally for like 10 minutes, that one question. And people just love speaking about themselves. And that's, if you can do that, you're in.
They do. And I 100% agree with you. They do. They love it. And you are in. If you do that, you're in. I totally agree with you.
100%. So we can maybe take 1 or 2 more questions, but I actually did prepare like a bad answer and a good answer. I've got some notes here. So I'm very happy to do a role play, and then, you know, Jamie can give me feedback. You guys can give me feedback on the bad role play, and then
Yeah.
I'll have a good role play as well. But we can take one last question. We've got one last question, which is,
it's quite a fun question. Hitchem says, if we're wearing the same color, should we mention about the outfit? I quite like that. Like, you know, yeah, it's an interesting one. Often, yeah, you turn up like blue shirt or something. I quite like that. Like if someone said to me, oh yeah, HR told me about the blue shirt rule or something, I would like that. I would think it was funny. Like white shirts or whatever. Yeah, if you say something like, yeah, HR told me about the white shirt rule for this interview, I think they'll find it funny. Yeah, it's always like person's clothes is a bit of a dangerous area sometimes, like, but I think color is fine, right? If it's your like same gender, you know, you're a lady, she's a lady, you're a guy, he's a guy, and it's like that, it's like totally cool. You know, I guess it's a little bit different cross sex, but I think when you're in the same sex, it's like a cool joke to make if you're wearing the same color. And it can break the ice a bit.
Amazing. No, thank you for that. Awesome. So I think we're going to move on to role plays now. And what I've got basically for you, Jamie, is I've got a why this role interview answer prepared, a bad and a good one. And I'd love to basically give you a bad answer and then a good answer. Does that work?
That works for me really well. Really well.
Amazing. So if you want, do you want to get some context on the job description, or do you think we can just jump straight in?
Go for it. So just tell me maybe what the job is.
For sure. So it's a sales role, and it's in this company called World 50. So sales role at World 50. I will actually share my screen and actually run you through the JD if I have it. It should be at the top as well, unless it's removed, but I do have the link. Oh yeah, it's still on. I love that. So for context, this job is, oops, can everyone see my screen?
We can now.
Yes. So this job was basically Aisha, one of my students in June 2023. She applied for it. She got it. She's sponsored now. And long story short, it's an SDR entry-level sales job with an opportunity to make 40 to 45K. And basically, they're looking for people with, you know, ambition to hit targets, motivation to hit targets, people that, you know, really communicate really well and can articulate complex language and complex things in simple language. And they have a huge focus on supporting, if I would just search leaders, they have a huge focus on supporting, leaders, right? So they basically help CEOs and CFOs of these large Fortune 500, these really, really large companies to learn from each other. It's kind of like what we do, but like for really large companies. We help international students get help from each other. That's what they do. So she had to show target driven. She had to show she's really she can communicate really well. She also had to show that she understands world leaders, and she also had to show that she's very motivated to support world leaders in basically her interview answers. So that's pretty much it. I can send you the job description as well if you want. I'll post that in the chat so that everyone else can see it. But that's a crux. And I prepared her for this job, and she got the job. So that's pretty much it. And she's sponsored now, and she's made some decent commissions as well. So yeah, Jamie, any more questions about the job description?
No, I think it's pretty clear.
Amazing. I've stopped sharing my screen now, and I have over here a bad interview answer and a good one. So I'll be peeking into the answer when I need to. Oops, but I won't watch. Okay, awesome. So the question is, why this role, Jamie? Feel free to just ask me. So Farun, why do you want to work in this role in a kind of a scary way?
All right. So Farun, thanks a lot for coming in to chat to us today. Tell me, it wasn't maybe so obvious to me from your CV that this is something you would go after. So, you know, didn't seem like a natural fit, but that's to me personally, maybe you can persuade me. So why this role?
So so this role, because when I saw the job description and it's sales, and I worked in marketing before, and I thought that I could, you know, when I was in marketing, I liked speaking to customers, and I thought I would, you know, work in a role where I speak to more customers, and I was applying for sales roles. I saw that, you know, this role, you want people who communicate well, and that's why I thought I would apply for it. And yeah, basically it's about communication, and I thought I would communicate well. And this is a job I can really utilize my communication skills because I feel I communicate well.
All right. Should we pause it there and I'll give some feedback?
Yeah, I want ruthless feedback on that. That was the bad response, by the way, guys.
No, I was going to say, all I can say is I hope that was the bad response. Okay, so guys, why is that to me obviously a bad response? So the thing I would say is the first thing is just the style of the response. Let's not even go into the content, right? You've seen Faroon actually communicate. He's a smiley, energetic, confident guy, right? How did he come across in that response? The word I wrote down on my pad was hesitant, very hesitant, opposite of fluent, opposite of how he usually is. The second thing, low energy, like his eyes were bottom half of the screen. If it was in person, he'd have been staring at my shoes, right? Or the table or something, right? And then next thing, he didn't bring energy in. It's like even physically, he was like leaning back. He wasn't in there energetic. He wasn't bringing energy to the role. He was bringing nerves. That's what came across was nerves, not confident energy. So just the style of the answer was wrong before we even get to the content. Now let's get to the content, which deliberately was also wrong. So lack of structure. There was no plan. All I heard, frankly, was the word communication a lot and that he likes talking to customers. That's all I can remember from the answer. The reason I can't remember anything is he didn't have a structure to his answer, right? There was no structure. There was no pyramid principle. This would have been the time to say, I think there are 3 reasons that I'm a really good fit for this job, or there's 3 reasons I really want this job. So I think that's really, really important. There was no structure to it. It was just like a random walk through words. The next thing is that I didn't feel like there was a clear logic to the answer. The logic was I worked in marketing, so now I can do sales. This isn't a strong argument, right? There's a vague link, and there were vague links throughout the answer. What we need is clear, specific, logical reasons. What screamed from this answer is I'm going to Google a job, and I'm just going to apply to everything, and then actually they called me for interview, and I'm kind of surprised. That's what screamed from that answer. There wasn't a clear recognition. The other thing I would say, I mean, Faroon asked me to put him on the spot. So I deliberately asked the question in like a nasty, tough way. I said, I don't see it in your CV. Why have you applied? People might do that, right? They might just say it because they mean it, or they might say it because they're trying to just see how you deal with that. He didn't address that at all. He didn't smile and say, I can understand why you think that, but let me persuade you that I see it differently. Or I can understand why you think that, but this is why I think it's different. He didn't address that at all. He instead just kind of started on this vague footing and we didn't get anywhere. So those are the reasons really for me that it was a poor answer. It brought all the wrong style and energy. It didn't have the structure. It didn't have the like strong logic flow, and it didn't have specifics, well-researched specifics at all. It was just very vague. I like talking to customers, so I'll do sales. There was nothing specific to the role of the customer then.
100%. I just wanted to add, I deliberately had no structure. I deliberately said the word communication a lot because what I've seen international students do is before interviews, they use ChatGPT. Recently, this is the past 6 months or so, or a year with ChatGPT, and they just try and get keywords, and they just, without any like script or without any rough bullet points of what they want to cover, they just try and just shove in the keywords across their answer. So I just was deliberately just trying to say communication everywhere. And this is what so many students do. Like drop a 1 in the chat if you try and just get the keywords in there, even if they don't make sense. And that's exactly what Jamie flagged. I just was saying, yeah, I'm a great communicator, but like, you got to show you're a great communicator. You don't say you're a great communicator, you know?
That's very important. Something we always used to say when we were coaching people was, show me your watch, right? Versus tell me the time, okay? Do you demonstrate the behavior, or do you just claim the behavior? It's like, don't claim that you're funny. Tell me a joke, right? You can't just say, I'm a great communicator, especially 100%. If you're showing me the opposite, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You can't just say, I'm a great leader. Give me an example. This is really important. Just by asserting a keyword, just by asserting an answer, you don't prove that you have it. It's evidence that proves that you have it.
100%, 100%. I was just going to say, Before we move on to the better response, I want everyone to drop a 1 in the chat because I want to see engagement. I want you guys to focus here because if you get one thing from this call and you watch a better response, you'll learn a lot. So I want everyone to post a 1 in the chat. Throw your phones away, please. And Jamie is a really, really busy man. It's been really hard to get him a free slot during lunch. So please, I want everyone to focus here. The feedback that he will give me on why the good response is good is going to be really valuable because you can make notes of that and replicate it. So I see loads of ones. That's perfect. Awesome. So with that said, Jamie, very happy to do. By the way, the question is, why do you want to work in this role? So why do you want to work in this role for the sales job at this World 50 company? So very happy, Jamie, for you to ask me this question, and then I'll give you hopefully a better response. And if it's not better, Jamie, I would be very grateful if you just, give me some really ruthless feedback on it.
And do you want me to ask it in exactly the same way? So it kind of
I think,
yeah.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I think so.
Froon, thanks for coming in today. I'll be honest, not obvious to me from your CV that you're a fit for this role. So I'd love you to maybe try and persuade me. Why do you think that you're a good fit for this role? Why this role?
Jamie, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. And great question, right? I do agree that my CV doesn't make it obvious that I should work in sales. But let me actually give you 3 reasons why I'm a great fit for this SDR role, right? The first reason is I believe I'm very target driven. And I've seen from the job description, this is really important to you as well. So I ran a luxury trust business in Pakistan, and I approached it with a target obsessed mindset. And within 3 months, we grew sales by a few thousand%. Yes, 30x. And I really had like strictly daily, weekly, monthly targets. And that's how I grew really fast. So I'm going to bring that to this role. That's the first reason. The second reason is my passion for learning. I've seen that you really, really obsess over people that love continuous learning. And I always am looking to learn new things. Like I had a bachelor's degree, I had a master's degree in Pakistan, and I moved to the UK for a second master's degree because I really, really wanted to learn from a top global institution. So that's the second reason. The third reason is my passion for building relationships. I've seen that in this role, relationships are everything. And I literally focus my whole business around building real relationships with influencers in Pakistan. And we made around 15 lakh rupees, which is not a lot in pounds, but I was really young and it was enough to, even cover my family's rent. So these are the 3 reasons. And I think, although I've never worked in sales directly, the skills I've picked up in my previous business, in my customer service role, they really would make me a great fit for this role. And based on the job description, I've seen I tick all the boxes. I'm so excited for this interview as well. And I hope that answers your question.
Excellent. Thank you, Wada. So let me talk about why I think that was good. And I did think it was good, by the way. I'm not just acting it. The contrast to last time, everyone, starts with the style. Okay. The style is smiling, lean in, energy, like ready to play. I'm happy to be here. I want to answer your question. I've got things to say, right? It is confident, friendly, rapport building, energy, high energy, excellent style. Last time it was totally the opposite. Next thing, address the question twice, at the start and at the end. Didn't shy from the fact that I put this challenge in on the CV and was open about it. So yeah, there's not a direct sales role on my CV. There is not that normal immediate logical step here. Directly answered it twice, at the beginning and at the end, which is great. Next thing, I think hopefully you all noticed, very clear structure, classic pyramid principle. Here are 3 reasons. We went through them: data-driven, continuous learning, relationships. I mean, it's really easy for me. My notes this time, very clear on why this guy's a fit for the role, right? The next thing, when we got into each of them, the actual evidence, it was telling me jokes, not telling me you're funny. It was, this is what I've achieved. Love the numbers. Love that it was quantified with, the 30x sales growth in Pakistan. Thought it was excellent. Specific examples where there can't be numbers. Do you love learning? Actually, yes. I did a second master's degree. Right. This is a clear example, right? This isn't like, oh yeah, I'm always reading. This is like a clear example. And then the relationship stuff felt like it was very from the heart, very believable, very passionate, which I think is really, really good. And then I love the fact that at the end, we re-summarized and confirmed the reasons. I think that's really, really powerful. My only feedback would be most British guys are going to have no idea how much 15 lakhs is. They don't
That's the
understand.
mistake, yeah.
They don't understand rupees, but that for sure. But the fact, you know, the kind of powerful story that it helped pay family rent or whatever, I think is really, really good. I know it won't sound as good in pounds, but
Yeah, I was just going to add there. In fact, this just goes to show that with this answer, although it's not perfect, it would have been good enough to get like a 7 or 8 on 10. It's not 100% not perfect. In fact, I tell my students to never use the words rupees or pesos or whatever, never use them. British person will understand it. Like I actually went against my advice because I was a bit stressed because I've never done these kind of live mock interview prep being assessed by a professional coach. But it goes to show you can get, 80% of the stress stuff right, and you're still far ahead and much better than most of the competition. But sorry, over to you, Jamie.
cool. No. That's incredibly helpful. That is my only thing. But I would really honestly on that, like what British people understand are pounds. Honestly, even dollars is second best. Euros is maybe tied second best. What British people understand are pounds. Honestly, even dollars or euros running the calc in their head. Like talk in pounds. Do the hard work for them. Talk in pounds.
Very true. And this just goes to show not just verbal communication. All my student CVs who I've worked with one-on-one in 2023, they would have like INR or USD or like Chinese. I would change that to pounds. And like, why are you like, make it easy for them? It's a British person. They don't understand your currency.
Make it easy for them. Do the hard work. It's your job to make it easy for them. Any CV that's hard to read is going in the bin. Any answer that's hard to understand is not impressing.
100%. Awesome. No, thank you so much for that, Jamie. And one more feedback point I'd love to give to myself, because I'd love to be introspective, is I think after I said, so I had first point was target driven / data driven.
Yeah.
Second was passion for learning. And then third was relationship builder. Between the second and third point, I think I stumbled a bit for like half a second or so.
Yeah, you lost your fluency a little bit.
I lost my fluency a bit. But I want your honest thoughts on this, Jamie. Would you think that's enough to reject a candidate?
No. I mean, you've got to remember that natives will also lose their fluency in patches, right? So I don't think that's a huge problem. The other thing I'd say is just to add a bit of feedback. I love the fact you came back with a conclusion, but it was less crisp than some of your bullet points. So I think planning out, if you're going to come back with a conclusion, which I like, by the way, keep it really just as crisp as your bullets in your intro, is what I would say.
Yeah.
So look, stumbles are going to happen. Okay. Part of it actually is also how you react. You stumble over an answer. Do you come back with high energy? Or does that affect your whole performance and make it tail off? That's also really, really important.
Yeah, 100%. So stumbling is definitely a thing that a lot of students do. And they say, Farun, I just don't know what to say. And I fumble my words. As Jamie said, if you start, is fumble is the right word or stumble? I'm not even sure.
It happens. You fumble. Yeah. Fumble.
You fumble. Yeah.
It happens, right? Like, I don't think it's a big issue. I say this so often to people, it's not the mistake you make, it's how you recover from the mistakes. If it makes your next answer also weak, it's a huge problem. We know interviews are hard. We're actually really interested in how you respond. I mean, I always used to find this when I was doing consulting interviews, they were often math components, right? If someone messed up the maths, okay, not in a major way, but in a minor way, I was really interested in how they responded, right? Because I'm like, okay, you made a small mistake. It's not, for me, it's not a rope like a Death Star. It's a mistake, but it's not a killer. Okay. I'm really interested in how you responded. Do you brush it off and keep going with the rest and perform well? In which case I'm like, cool, they can resilient, can work under confidence. Or does it make you stumble for like the next 5 minutes because you're so stressed about the mistake? If so, I'm like, worse things are going to happen than like, you missed a 0 in the real job. And I need you to be able to recover from it. And if missing a 0 stresses you out that much in an interview, then maybe you don't have the resilience and the performance under pressure.
100%. And that just goes to show, this is really useful insight, because it goes to show that interviewers are not just looking at what you say, they're looking at like your body language, they're looking at how you're reacting to, if you get stuff wrong, they're looking at a lot of things. And they're also noticing where if you make a mistake, like, do you just brush it off and then you're like, oh yeah, cool? Or are you like, does it ruin the rest of your interview? That's a really interesting point. And that's a point that, back in my day, I didn't even know I was doing. I just naturally knew that like, if you make a mistake, you just be like, oh yeah, actually, yeah, it's wrong because of that. And then I just naturally move on because I just think of it as like, I don't want to seem like I've not done my preparation right. I make a mistake, it's fine. Let's move on to the next stuff. But it's interesting to see the interviewers are noticing those little things. That's really, really helpful. Awesome. Should we take some more questions in the chat? If that's okay, Jimmy. There's
Love
some
to. Absolutely love to. Yeah. Yeah, we got 5 minutes. I'd love to.
We've got 5 minutes, yeah. So please drop some questions. If I don't see questions, I would love to pick Jamie's brain because I've definitely got some questions that I've heard from students. So I'm going to wait like 5 seconds or so. If not, ask a question. I mean, why people think of questions? I mean, my honest question would be in terms of if we were to rank structure versus content, what's more important? Because people ask me a lot, is it the STAR method, Faroon? Like which one should I use? Like what's more important? Is it the actual content or is the structure?
Yeah, so they're not going to notice what structure you use. Okay, so like they shouldn't notice. The best structure is it doesn't look like you're using a structure, but your answer is just really structured. So that's definitely one thing that's very important. They're not going to be like, oh, he used the STAR method, I'm giving him a job.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, exactly.
That is not how it works. Like they just want a well-organized answer. The structures are just more powerful. They should kind of be invisible to the interviewer. They're like, I remember a lady who I work with, she said, the ladies will understand this probably better than me. She said it's like Spanx. No one can see it and it makes you look great, right? And it's like the same thing. It's the same thing. No one should know your structure. It should just sound like a really impressive answer. And you're like, oh, wow, great answer. You don't think, oh, that guy used the STAR method. You actually don't want that, right? You want it to be non-obvious. So like I always say, make it look like you didn't rehearse, but actually you rehearsed like hell, and it's the same thing. Make it look like who knows what formal structure you were using. Actually, you had a really clear structure. So you shouldn't look like you're structured. I would say that ultimately it is both. I know that's a cop-out answer, but it is both. But certainly content will not wash without structure. I promise you.
Exactly.
I think most people think it's 90% content, 10% structure. I'm genuinely 50-50. You get brilliant content and no structure, you will not pass. Obviously, great pyramid principle, but it's like irrelevant content. You're also not going to pass, right? But I promise you need specific, well-researched content and the structure. It is both.
100%. And that's why I wanted to ask you that. Like, I 100% agree. Most people, they obsess over the STAR method or the CAR method, which is structure, which is great. And they're not looking at the content. Like they have a STAR answer, or they use the STAR method for the answer. And then in the result, there's no numbers and there's no tangible outcome. It's like you just increase sales, but like by how much? What was the timeline? What was the impact on the business? And you need to really obsess over the content as well. It's literally 50-50. You can't just get the structure right and not the content. I agree so much. There's actually a really important, interesting question in the chat, Jamie. Is it really important to mention company vision / mission for questions like, why do you want to work for X company?
Great question. I would definitely say it helps. Yeah. So I think that the thing I always really recommend people do is try and go through your answers and try and use their language. I wouldn't be so hot on like parroting their sentences. Okay. So you don't want to say like, I really want to work at Deloitte and then quote like 3 lines of Deloitte's vision and mission. What you do want to do is give your own answer peppered with their language. Okay. Or if you do cite something, actually like cite it, like, I saw that your mission said this, and then go on to discuss it. You don't want to like just parrot back their vision and mission. That's not good. But I definitely think referring to it and peppering your own answer with the language is really important.
Great answer. And we've got another one, which is this is probably the last one we're going to have to leave exactly 2. Is it better to keep your answers simple and to the point unless you're specifically asked to elaborate? Great question.
Yes.
Yes. Agreed.
There's your simple and to the point answer. Yes. And that's great. Get the interviewer to elaborate, because then you know what they want to hear about, right? That's what I always say. Then you know the bits they want to hear about, versus you talk for 5 minutes and they just have to move on. They actually really wanted to hear about one thing, but they have to move on. Yes. Simple.
Yes. Just want to like clarify. Simplicity is everything. Simplicity in your job hunt, simplicity inside the job to get promoted, simplicity in business, simple scales, and you just want to be simple. There's one last question. We can probably take this and then we call it a day. How should I land a job within my field, which is data science, with no experience? I've done this is probably not for this. I can take this, not a problem. Not
Okay.
relevant for communication. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jamie, for taking the
Thank you,
time out for
everyone.
this.
I really
Thank
enjoyed
you everyone
that.
for joining.
Thank you all
Take
of you
care.
very much. Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye bye.